Good morning again. Well, this morning I began our lesson, our Sunday lesson, quite a bit differently than usual. I'm going to start with scripture. And we're looking at the book of Esther, the 4th chapter and the 14th verse, which is abbreviated or shortened with a very popular quote that says, "Perhaps you were made for just a time such as this." Perhaps you were made for just a time such as this. Or in other words, you were made for these times. So the book of Esther is a book of the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament, the Christian Old Testament, and it belongs to the 3rd section of the Judaic canon, which is known as the Ketuvim, or writings. So this is the backstory. The backstory is about Esther. Esther is a beautiful woman, a beautiful, sweet, innocent, lovely woman. And the king of Persia, Xerxes I, has lost his wife and he needs a replacement. And he sees Esther and is so taken with her that he marries her immediately. Now, her cousin, Mordecai, who raised her, had told her not to reveal her heritage. So the king does not know that Esther is a Jew. Now, the king had an advisor, his chief minister, Haman, who is jealous and suspicious of Mordecai, for Mordecai keeps close to the activities of the palace. He's trying to keep an eye on Esther and make sure that she is well and that she is safe. But Haman has this exalted position in the palace. And the rule is that people are not only to bow to him, but to prostrate themselves, lay flat on the floor or the ground in front of him. And as a Jew, Mordecai believes in only one God. And the Jews were sometimes in trouble during these days because kings saw themselves as gods. But in this case, it's not even the king, it's one of his advisors. So Haman is very upset about this man who refuses to lay on the ground before him. And so he develops a plot to not only kill Mordecai, but to massacre all of the Jews. So he goes to the king and he says, "I have heard this rumor that the Jews are plotting against you." And he gets the king to agree that the Jews should be put to death. So remember, this is the Old Testament, which usually means somebody has to die. So Mordecai learns of this decree. He strips himself of his clothes. He's wailing at the gate. And Esther sends her servant, Hatak, to Mordecai. And Hatak is kind of serving as a messenger back and forth, bringing messages between Mordecai and Esther. And Mordecai asked her to go to the king, to ask the king to retract this order. Now, asking Esther to go to the king is actually asking her to put her life on the line. And this is not because she's a Jew, but because the traditions of this time was that she was only to speak to the king when he requested her presence. For her to approach him or to initiate a conversation, depending on the king's mood, she could be put to death. So the scripture this morning is a conversation that's being conveyed by Hatak between Mordecai and Esther when Mordecai is trying to convince her to speak to the king. So the scripture in more detail says, "For if you keep silence at such a time as this, relief and deliverance will rise for the Jews from another quarter. But you and your father's house will perish. And who knows whether you have not come to the kingdom for such a time as this?" So perhaps you have come to royal dignity for just such a time as this. In other words, you were made for these times. Now, I won't keep you in suspense. The king greets Esther with warmth and understanding. Haman dies, and Mordecai replaces him as an advisor to the king. So let's look at the characters in the book of Esther from a different perspective, for they are all you, and they are all me. You are a beautiful being. You are. You are Esther. You are filled with love and purity and innocence. You are also filled with the wisdom and protection of spirit, which is represented by Mordecai, guidance that watches out for you and for your welfare. Your spirit guide, or your higher self, which is represented by Haytak, communicates this wisdom to you. You might converse back and forth for a while until you are able to actually hear the divine message that is being communicated. Perhaps there's an aspect of you that you do not have full confidence in, a quality, and so you keep it hidden from the world, as Esther hid her Hebrew heritage. You are always embraced by the divine, recognized, and having the light shining upon your truth, which is represented by the king. Your ego at times is at war with your inner wisdom. Your ego, Haman, wants your wisdom to bow down to your ego. When your wisdom refuses, your ego attempts to diminish your sense of confidence. The truth of your being, it knocks you off center a bit by introducing doubt. With strength, you return to the divine within you, the king, where you are received and embraced, and the ego is diminished. You were made for these times. We were made for these times as no one before us has. Let's think about these times, all that we've experienced in the last 3 or 4 years, personally and as a church community. Adaptations, flexibility, going where no man or woman has gone before. Could our ancestors 100 years ago have adapted as quickly and creatively with imagination and strength and will and power? Could they have done so as we have? Not only holding church, but birthday parties and anniversaries and family gatherings and celebrations of life on the internet via Zoom. Our ancestors knew grit. They knew how to learn from those who had come before them and to repeat from practice, from memory, how to fish, how to cook, how to bake, how to farm, how to build things so that they would last. They learned from their parents and their parents' parents, with changes coming along, improvements perhaps, very gradually. They didn't have to be creative. They did things the way they had always been done, and they worked hard. They made sacrifices, and they knew the rewards of a hard life. And there was a distinct measure of security in their world, not a lot of new to disturb it. For we know how us humans handle change. We're not always a fan. I understand the security of doing the same things the same way over and over. Repetition has a sense of calm to it, knowing exactly what to expect next. My world before ministry was as an executive in human resources for large healthcare companies. And we had manuals, bookshelves of manuals with policies and procedures for everything under the sun. A question comes up, pull out the manual and you have your answer. Just like we used to learn in school, you have a problem and there's one right answer, usually. Sometimes there would be maybe A plus B or B and C or all of the above or none of the above, but still there was one correct answer, one way to respond to a problem. And that is not life. That is absolutely not life. I laughed out loud this week when I saw a message, a quote from Reverend Sarah Jewess. It said, "Going to seminary is, I think, a lot like going to culinary school. You learn the basic foundations, some cool party tricks, and by the end, you can prepare a gourmet meal. Pastoring, however, is waking up every day to a new episode of Chopped, where the ingredients are completely random and you're expected to do something with whatever you're handed while everyone watches and provides running commentary, and occasionally something blows up. Well, that's more than pastoring. That's life for each one of us, except we just think everybody is watching and offering commentary. In truth, everyone's busy with their own ingredients for that day, creating their own concoction and hoping for the best. We all wake up and think the day is going to go a certain way, or the week, or the month, or the year. Then the ingredients are changed. New things are introduced. Other ingredients are missing, and we are left to make sense of it all. We are masters, each one of us, of adaptation. We were made for these times. A lot has been asked of each one of us, more than we ever thought we were capable of handling. Now, I don't need to rehash the last 2+ years for us. We all know the personal changes, the adjustments that we've each made and are still making to stay safe and to keep everyone else safe. We have finally, most of us, come to the realization that this is the new normal, that things are not returning to the way they were in early 2020, as much as we want it to. That was then, and this is now. And this is where we live and move and have our being, in the now, not in the past. We've asked a lot of our church community in the way of adjustment. Wear masks, be okay without masks, wear masks. Social distance, be okay not being 6 feet apart. Refreshments after service, no refreshments indoor. We loved our monthly potlucks. Heck, we loved being able to hug each other, being able to see one another's faces, giving and receiving smiles. We've made online attendance absolutely normal and inclusive. Move from Key West, you can still be an active member of the community. Spend months away, you can still join us every week online. You can attend services, make your financial contributions, attend quarterly town hall meetings, attend the annual membership meetings, and vote online. Sign up to read the Daily Word. We have asked you to accept temporarily having a senior minister who lives hundreds of miles away with you most Sundays via Zoom, and then visiting throughout the year. All of this was unheard of not that long ago. And look how we have adjusted and adapted and become flexible. Now, some of the changes have been very positive, such as the fact that you can continue to be part of the community regardless of where you are, or if you're not feeling well and you want to stay home. Members of our finance team and our board of trustees never have to miss a meeting just because they aren't in town physically. We've probably had better attendance for these groups than previous years. And people have been able to join those groups, even knowing they were going to be gone part of the year, because they could still attend. We can now accommodate that. And we are continuing to ask you to help us adjust, all of us. Our finances, although we do have money in the bank, are not quite where we want to see them. Our monthly income does not quite match our monthly expenses yet. And our finance team and our board of trustees are keeping a close eye on this and strategically working towards a more positive financial picture. Yes, we are knowing that our community will continue to grow and continue to grow towards tithing to us as your spiritual home, allowing us to continue to move towards doing more and more in our community at large. And to that end, we have some exciting events in our very near future. Our Kindness Rocks creation and blessing our island will continue and expand to become more inclusive, more people helping to create these positive messages in our world. And thank you for being our ambassadors and going out and spreading these beautiful messages around our island. We have a high tea fashion show planned for this fall, which will be great fun and a fundraiser. Joshua Anasio, who I know you all so enjoyed, will be back with us twice. In October, he'll be with us via Zoom, and in December, he'll be with us in person. And we'll be offering again personal sessions and a group energy session. We have a women's retreat, a 4-hour Saturday morning event, also planned in December. And Joshua will be blessing those who attend the retreat with group energy work. In early 2023, we're looking at hosting an art gallery, art sale, wine and cheese event. The proceeds to go to our mortgage-free campaign. And this is going to be a big, big event. These all sound like great fun, wonderful opportunities for us to get together, laugh, and connect. And balancing these events are 2 personal spiritual growth programs. Our own Lori Nielsen will be facilitating a very special weekly book study group on the Unity Classic Lessons in Truth by Emily Cady. This is a foundational Unity book, most of which you are all familiar with, but whether you are or aren't, this is going to be a wonderful book study group. And you'll be hearing more about that in our announcements today and over the next couple of weeks. The second opportunity is the expansion of our prayer chaplain program within our church community. We're blessed to have 3 prayer chaplains in service to Unity of the Keys. Aaron Andes is available prior or immediately after services for one-on-one prayer with anyone desiring prayer support. We also have Deborah Butler and Marianne Napier, who've been trained as prayer chaplains. And although they are away part of the year, even when they're away, they're regularly on Zoom. And they offer an opportunity for prayer as prayer chaplains to the people who join us in our Zoom community. We will soon be offering training for those of you who are interested in becoming a prayer chaplain. Now, prayer chaplains receive training in how to hold others in prayer. For when we're holding another in prayer, we're envisioning the truth behind the need. And I'll explain that for a moment. The divine truth behind every human need can be simplified into just a few categories: healing and wholeness, love, peace, harmony, abundance, meaningful relationships. So someone is hurting, they are grieving the loss of someone dear to them. The truth behind that need is healing. They are wishing to be healed from the pain of grief, of their deep loss. So as a prayer chaplain, you're not bringing healing to them. You are holding the vision of their healing, their own healing coming from within them. The words you speak with them are not about the pain, but rather words affirming the healing that is coming to them, coming from within them. You are never exhausted from the experience because nothing is being drawn out of you to them. You are not giving them your wholeness or your healing. You are being a center of wholeness, affirming healing. Their healing and wholeness comes from within them as expressions of the divine. You are simply holding the space, affirming the words, acknowledging their ability when they are ready to move through the pain to the truth of their spiritual being, which is perfect health, absolute wholeness. There is incredible power in holding the divine truth for another, just as there is incredible power in having someone hold the divine truth for you. I'm a believer, tried and true, in the prayer chaplain program, not only for the gifts that it brings to the community, having more people available for us to pray with, but for the incredible personal spiritual growth that happens when you go through the training process and hold another in prayer. You cannot hold the highest and greatest good for another and not be uplifted yourself. It is incredibly transformational. And so starting next week, we'll have a sign-up sheet for those who feel they would like more information. We'll have a a little question and answer period about being a prayer chaplain, and I'll announce that date in the next couple of weeks. Even those who complete the training still have the opportunity to make the personal decision as to whether or not they want to commit to a year to serve as a prayer chaplain. These programs are exciting. They are transformational, both the book study and the prayer chaplain program. Our future is bright. It is perhaps a bit different from what we might have imagined if someone had asked us 4 or 5 years ago, but it is bright. We were made for these times. We can do this. We are already doing this. And as we adjust and accommodate, we invite others to join us in this magnificent journey. We were made for these times. We've got this. And so it is, my friends. And so it is. God bless you.